The morning sun turned the ocean into a sheet of glass as Falcon throttled up, her jet lifting from the deck like it was just another drill. Steam curled around the nose of her aircraft as the catapult flung her into the sky, weight slamming her back against the seat before the horizon widened and the carrier shrank to a dark speck on the rolling blue below. For everyone else, it was a routine training sortie. For her, it was Judgment Day. Lieutenant Sarah Keene, Falcon, settled into formation, gloved hands tight on the stick. This was her evaluation flight, the one that would determine whether she stayed on the roster of CVN-71 Strike Wing or was relegated to secondary duty. Every switch she flicked, every call she made, was under silent scrutiny. Her pulse hammered as she climbed, engines humming steady, canopy filling with light. Iron Hand, lead, Angels 1-5, on course. Her voice was clipped but even, the way she had practiced. Above and ahead, Commander Jack Rourke, Iron Hand, answered with the calm that came from decades in the cockpit. His aircraft was a steady shape against the brightening sky, wing lights blinking. "Copy, Falcon. Keep it tight. This is a drill, not a race." Falcon bit down a reply. Easy for him to say. For her, there was no such thing as just a drill. She adjusted trim, scanning her HUD, her throat dry behind the oxygen mask. To her right, Lieutenant Miguel Torres, Viper, slid into position, rolling his jet with casual precision. He gave a little waggle of wings, the kind of gesture that said, "Relax." She forced herself to nod. At 15,000 feet, the squadron leveled out, 6 birds in a clean V. The ocean below stretched endless, the carrier already a memory on the waves. Falcon let her breathing steady, listening to the rhythmic chatter of status reports across the net. On the bridge of CVN-71, Captain Briggs watched his pilots as faint blips moving outwards on the radar screen. In the Combat Information Center, Air Boss Mercer stood over the scopes, eyes sharp, headset pressed to her ear. To them, this was a scheduled exercise. One more flight in 1,000. Nothing unusual. But Falcon felt it. A prickle at the back of her neck as her radar painted something odd. Tiny flickers, faint returns at the edge of range. She frowned, adjusted filters, tapped the scope. A line of blips danced, then vanished. "Iron Hand, I'm getting strange contacts. Bearing 240, Angels unknown. Possible ghosts?" A pause, then the commander's voice, calm and dismissive. "Roger, Falcon. Probably atmospheric clutter. Keep your eyes forward." Her gut clenched. She wanted to argue, but rank silenced her. She toggled radar again, adjusting gain, and the flickers returned, then disappeared. She shook her head. Maybe he was right. Ghost tracks, phantom echoes in the ionosphere. The squadron pressed on, the steady cadence of a drill. Viper joked over comms, his easy confidence filling the silence. Falcon only half listened. Her eyes kept darting to the edges of her scope. Something was there. She knew it. Minutes stretched. The sun climbed higher, light glinting off canopy glass. The flight path curved gently, a wide loop designed to test coordination and fuel management. Falcon's jaw ached from clenching. Then it came. Sharp, urgent. CVN-71, CIC to squadron. Unknown contacts detected. Bearing 240, range 60 nautical, speed increasing. Falcon's heart lurched. Her scope bloomed with returns. No longer flickers, but solid. Multiple. Fast. Closing. Iron Hand's voice hardened. "CIC, confirm. This is supposed to be a training sortie." The reply came cold and clipped. "Negative, Iron Hand. Contacts are real. Classified as unknown. Stand by." Falcon swallowed, every nerve alive. She flicked her weapons system online, though protocol said it was unnecessary for a drill. The tone of her jet shifted. Systems awakening. Hoodie glowing sharper. She knew Iron Hand would tell her to stand down, to stay calm. But she also knew the truth. Those weren't ghosts. "Viper, Falcon," she called. "You see them?" "Yeah," came the reply, tension under the humor now. "That ain't clutter. Those are bandits." Her breath caught. Bandits. Not part of the plan, not scripted targets, not blips on a simulator. Real aircraft. Fast. Heading straight for the fleet. Iron Hand tried to steady them. "All units hold formation. This is probably a test scenario. Until we get positive ID, nobody break." Falcon's stomach turned. A test? She wanted to believe it, but her instincts screamed louder. This was no test. The sky itself seemed to tighten around her canopy, the wide morning horizon narrowing into threat. Her fingers hovered over the switches, her pulse a thunder in her ears. She thought of the carrier below, thousands of sailors, steel decks stacked with lives. She thought of the fact that she was still being evaluated, that any mistake would end her career. And yet, those blips kept coming, closing, fast. The warning tone hit like a knife, a sharp, rising wail in her headset. Lock-on detected. Falcon's breath stopped, her eyes wide. Someone out there had painted them with radar. Someone was hunting. Her heart pounded so hard it shook her. This was no drill. This was combat. And in that instant, as the warning tone drilled into her ears, she realized her life, and the life of everyone aboard CVN-71, was about to change forever. The next chapter begins as the first missile lock blares in Falcon's cockpit. The tone in Iron Hand's voice changed the sky itself. No longer training, this was combat. The warning wail in Falcon's cockpit was piercing, drilling into her skull a single mechanical truth. Someone out there had locked onto her. The illusion of safety, of routine, shattered in an instant. Her hand tightened on the throttle, thumb brushing the flare switch, her breath fogging her mask. The squadron's neat formation broke into fragments of tension and silence. "All units, defensive formation," Iron Hand snapped. His voice carried steel now, stripped of all dismissiveness. "Falcon, you hold position. Do not break." Her radar lit like a storm front, solid contacts at 20 miles, closing fast. The scope showed them climbing, crossing altitude markers, coming in high with speed that meant intent. Not a test. Not a drill. CVN-71, CIC confirming hostiles, bandits bearing 240, range 18, Angels 20. The words cut deep. Hostiles. Real. Falcon's pulse surged. She had trained for this, simulated it, dreamed of it, but she had never lived it. Fear and instinct clashed inside her as she steadied her breathing. Iron Hand's jet banked left, wings gleaming in sunlight. "Iron Hand, Fox 3. His call rang out, the declaration of a missile loosed at beyond visual range. A sharp tremor passed through Falcon. The exercise had turned to war. She glanced at Viper. He gave her a nod, jaw tight, eyes locked forward. There was no humor in his voice now. "Falcon, stay with me. We hold." Her warning tone screamed again. A missile, inbound. The voice of training echoed in her skull. "Break lock. Deploy countermeasures. Survive." She rolled right, hard, pressing against the harness as G-forces clawed her body. Her hand slammed the countermeasure switch. Flares spat behind her jet, hot stars falling into blue. The tone cut out. She had shaken it, but only for a moment. The sky erupted. Contrails lanced between aircraft, streaks of white against deep azure. Falcon saw Iron Hand's jet shudder as a hostile missile clipped his wing. Smoke streamed. His voice cracked through comms, strained but alive. "Iron Hand taking damage. Systems compromised. Falling back." The squadron leader was out. Just like that, command fractured. Falcon's chest tightened as she realized what that meant. "Viper, Fox 2. Miguel's voice was sharp, desperate. She caught the flash of his short-range missile streaking toward a bandit. A bloom in the distance marked a kill. But 3 more were coming in, angles converging. Falcon's scope painted them closing. 15 miles. 10. She gritted her teeth. Iron Hand's order repeated in her mind. Stay tight, don't break. But every instinct screamed otherwise. The carrier was behind them, a vast and vulnerable target, and those fighters were lined up for it. Falcon, hold position, Iron Hand barked, still clinging to authority even as his jet limped away. Her stomach churned. Obey and risk losing the fleet, or break formation and act. She saw it clearly. The carrier's deck crew, thousands of lives, a floating city of steel. She thought of her evaluation, her career, her rank. Then she thought of the bandits, and she made her choice. She jammed the throttle forward and dove. The ocean surged up as her jet screamed down, HUD blurring with numbers. Altitude plummeted. Her body crushed under the strain of a 7G dive, breath ripped ragged from her chest. Her hands trembled but held steady on the stick. Falcon, breaking formation. Her voice cut across comms, defiant and certain. Negative. Falcon, return to formation. Iron Hand's fury roared in her ears, but she ignored it. At 300 feet, she leveled out, racing parallel to the ocean, waves flashing like silver blades below. The bandits followed, hungry, dropping altitude to chase her. She had dragged them down, away from the carrier, away from the fleet. Her vision narrowed, the edges darkening under the strain. She forced her lungs to work, her mind to clear. If she misjudged by seconds, she would die. But she hadn't misjudged. Not yet. Viper's voice broke through, frantic. "Falcon, what the hell are you doing?" she answered between gasps. "Drawing them out. Keep the ship clear." On the carrier, in CIC, silence fell over the operators as they watched her blip pull the enemy away. Mercer's voice was low, incredulous. "She's baiting them. A rookie's baiting them." The radar confirmed it. Hostile tracks peeled toward Falcon, leaving the fleet's direct path. A single pilot had become the shield. Her jet rattled with strain, the altimeter screaming as she skimmed the waves. Contacts loomed behind her, sharp and fast. She was alone now, pulling the teeth of the attack toward herself, and the carrier's survival suddenly hung on her gamble. And as the ocean blurred past and her radar filled with closing enemies, Falcon realized she wasn't running anymore. She was leading. The next chapter begins as Falcon attempts the impossible maneuver that could save the carrier. Salt spray blurred the horizon as Falcon slammed her throttles forward, daring the sky itself to break before she did. The ocean stretched endless beneath her canopy. The carrier, CVN-71, reduced to a tiny speck in the distance. The enemy formation was closing fast. 3 hostiles weaving low, 2 higher, waiting to strike. She could hear her own breath hammering in her mask, hot and uneven. The fuel gauge blinked red on the right side of her HUD. Bingo fuel was near. She had minutes at best. Behind her, Iron Hand's voice crackled in short bursts, ragged from damage control. "Falcon, stay clear. They'll tear you apart." But the carrier lay wide open. No other jets in range. No time for reinforcements. If she hesitated, the deck crew below would never even see the attack coming. She pressed her gloved hand against the stick, steadying it. Fear was there, gnawing, but smaller than the thought of failure. The lead hostile swept lower, lining up on the carrier. Radar lock screamed in her headset. She banked left, shallow, keeping herself between the enemy and the ship. Every maneuver bled precious fuel. Every second dragged her closer to empty tanks. CIC's voice cut across the channel, clipped and tense. "Falcon, you are carrier guard. Hold them off." She swallowed hard. A rookie, the least experienced pilot in the squadron, had just been named the fleet's shield. The first missile warning blared. She yanked the stick hard right. The jet rolled inverted, then pitched down, dropping to 200 feet above the waves. Sea spray hissed against her canopy as she pushed nose forward at 400 knots. Her body slammed against the harness under 7 Gs. Vision tunneled to gray. She bit down, forcing air into her lungs. "Chaff! Flare!" Her voice was more a growl than a command. Silver strips burst behind her jet, flares streaking like falling stars. A hostile missile arced through the cloud and vanished into ocean spray. The bandits pursued, drawn low, exactly where she wanted them. She skimmed the waves, water so close it blurred into streaks of white foam beneath her. She snapped a glance at the altimeter. 200 feet, holding steady. A single mistake and the ocean would swallow her whole. The carrier loomed larger, and with it, the narrow umbrella of its defenses. If she could drag the fighters just a little closer, the CIWS would take over. But they had to be inside range. Her radar warned of another lock. Her heart thumped against her ribcage. A shrill alarm filled the cockpit. "Falcon, brake! You can't take them all!" Iron Hand again, his voice thick with disbelief. She ignored it. The first hostile launched. A Fox 3, straight at her. She pitched up, nose high, yanking the stick until her jet clawed for the sky. At 400 knots, she flipped it into a barrel roll, climbing vertical, the ocean dropping away below. The G-force crushed her chest. Her vision blurred black at the edges. She held the breath, teeth clenched, refusing to let go. The hostile overshot, chasing her climb. Too fast, too committed. They followed her arc up, straight into range of the carrier's defenses. CIW's engaging. Splash 3. The CIC's voice cut across the net, raw with triumph. The first burst of naval gunfire shredded the lead 2 fighters. Smoke trails fell toward the water. Another missile streaked from the carrier, catching the third, hostile mid-roll. A flash, then debris raining in silence. But one slipped through. A final bandit broke high and dove, nose aimed at CVN-71. Falcon's eyes narrowed. Fuel gauge blinked again. Critical. 1 shot left. Her thumb hovered over the trigger. Fox 2! Her missile launched, flame licking past her canopy. The heat seeker roared toward its mark. She counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, until the explosion lit the sky. The last hostile broke apart, fragments tumbling toward the sea. Silence filled the comms. The alarms in her cockpit dulled to a single steady fuel tone. Her chest heaved. Her hands shook against the throttle. The carrier below was intact, untouched, still cutting calmly through the ocean. For a moment, nothing. Then Iron Hand's voice, quieter than she had ever heard it. "Falcon, you just saved the fleet." She exhaled, finally letting the weight drain from her shoulders. In the CIC, on the deck, in cockpits still circling above, men and women stared at the horizon in disbelief. A rookie had done the impossible. Falcon looked out past the waves, the adrenaline still burning. She had minutes before fuel starvation, but that hardly mattered. She had stood her ground, and the carrier still sailed. And yet, deep in her gut, she knew this was only the beginning. The sea always had another storm waiting.